All right, today we are doing something really interesting. We're going to take a look at the anatomy of a single, super bold prediction. One analyst is calling this thing a lock, and we had to unpack every single piece of the logic behind it. So let's get right into it. So there it is, right up front. Not a suggestion, not a maybe, but a lock. The number is 053. Now that is a really confident call, and it's the entire focus of what we're breaking down today. So where in the world does that kind of confidence come from?
I mean, that's the big question, right? It's one thing to just throw a number out there, but it's a whole other thing to build a case for it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to investigate the method step by step and see if this whole thing actually holds water.
Okay, so the foundation of this entire prediction, it all starts right here with two specific numbers, 0 and 5. And this isn't just some random pairing. According to the analysis, this is the very core of the strategy, and it's built on a pretty specific theory about cycles. And here's that theory. They call it the rest-return cycle. The idea is actually pretty simple. When two numbers get hot and show up in the same draw, they have a tendency to take the very next one off, to rest. But right after that single rest period, there's a really high chance they come back together. And what's so wild is how perfectly this theory lines up with today's draws. At 2 p.m., boom, you see 0 and 5 appear together. Then you look at the 5 p.m. draw, and they're both gone. That's the rest period. So this sets the stage perfectly for the 9 p.m. draw, which, according to the theory, should be their big comeback. And this isn't just a gut feeling. The analyst actually puts a number on it, a pretty staggering 60% probability that 0 and 5 will return together, just based on their history. And just like that, 2/3 of the prediction seems to be locked in with some pretty strong statistical support. All right, so we've got 0 and 5 as our anchors. But how do we find that last digit? Well, the logic here shifts a bit. We're moving away from returning pairs and into a totally different concept, finding a number that is, statistically speaking, overdue. This chart just lays out the case for the number 3 so well. See, on average, you'd expect to see the number 3 pop up about every 2.3 draws or so, but it's currently been missing for 4 straight draws. That difference is what the analyst is calling gap urgency. The longer it's gone, the more pressure builds for it to show up. And that gap urgency translates directly into this: an almost 90% chance that the number 3 is going to return in this very next draw. The probability of it staying away for a 5th time in a row is just over 10%. So when you combine a strong power pair with a single digit that has this much urgency, well, 053 starts to make a whole lot of sense. Now, a solid strategy isn't just about what you choose to play. It's also about what you deliberately choose to avoid. This next part of the analysis is all about managing risk, basically, by weeding out combinations that might look good on the surface but are actually statistical traps. And this is the main rule for avoidance, the exhaustion rule. It's a lot like that power pair that needed a rest. When a full combination shows up, like the 629 from the 5 p.m. draw, those numbers are now considered exhausted. The data shows they're very, very likely to take at least one draw off. Okay, so this is where things get really fascinating. We've talked about what to play and what to avoid, but now we have to deal with the biggest wild card on the entire board, the number 7. And how the analyst handles this one is, well, it's very revealing. Just look at that number, seriously. Mathematically, after being gone for 11 straight draws, the probability of the number 7 coming back is almost a sure thing. We're talking 99.87%. On paper, this should be the easiest call of the day, but it's not that simple. Because, reality has a funny way of ignoring the math sometimes. This quote from the source really says it all. For 11 draws in a row, they predicted the 7 would return based on the odds. And for 11 draws in a row, they've been wrong. This, my friends, is what we call a statistical anomaly. So here's the dilemma in a nutshell. You've got near certain math on one side and a real-world stubborn anomaly on the other that has thumbed its nose at the odds 11 times. So what's the strategy? You don't bet the farm on an anomaly suddenly deciding to fix itself. And that's why 7, despite the incredible math, is being actively avoided in this prediction. So let's bring it all together now. We've got our power pair, we've got our overdue single number, and we've got our avoidance strategy. Now we get to see how it all clicks into place to make 053 the highest confidence pick. This table is awesome. It just lays it all out, side by side. You can clearly see 053 gets a nice big check mark in all the right boxes. It's got the rest return pattern, it's got the gap urgency, and it avoids both the exhaustion rule and that risky anomaly from the number 7. The other options, they've all got at least one critical flaw. So here it is, the final argument wrapped up with a bow. It's a combination built on a perfect cycle, it's powered by statistical urgency, and it's protected by avoiding both exhausted numbers and that incredibly risky number 7 anomaly. According to this analysis, it's just the most complete, most logical play you can make. So after all that, what does it all add up to? Well, according to the source's own calculations, when you layer all these factors together, it gives the 053 combination a probability that is 52 times better than just pulling 3 numbers out of a hat at random. That's a massive statistical edge. So there you have it. That's the logic from start to finish. And it kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. Is a system like this really a way to beat the odds, to predict the future? Or is it something more human? A really fascinating, complex framework that we build to try and find some kind of order in what might just be pure chaos. It's definitely something to think about.